Here, I'm a neuroscientist, been a neuroscientist for 40 years. But I'm not talking about my neuroscience research, I'm talking about how this has affected me personally. 1999, I was diagnosed with a genetic anomaly called familial hypertriglyceridemia, which means I'm extremely efficient at producing fat. A person with my kind of genotype can be obese very easily. And so this was 1999, and you see that through 2007. So I battled this hypertriglyceridemia. I have my triglycerides, for example, were 800. HDL was extremely low at about 30. So you want your triglycerides HDL ratio to be maybe 2, no more than 3 to 1. My ratio was 25 to 1, which is extremely dangerous. So I took it very seriously. I exercised like crazy, and I followed the dietary guidelines, which you can see right here. And I'm sure Zoe will cringe at this. This was my guide. 1999, I knew a whole lot about the brain, but basically nothing about diet and heart disease. And so, American Heart Association website, I'm looking at reducing my saturated fats, went low in meat, exercised like crazy. I ate oatmeal so I could lower my cholesterol. I ate beans so I could lower my cholesterol. And so I followed these guides. I was very concerned about my cholesterol, concerned about saturated fat. By 2007, the only thing I had accomplished was my triglycerides went higher, my HDL went lower, and I got fat. I was never obese, but I was about 30 pounds heavier than I am now. I remember that moment, and it's actually at dietdoctor.com, which they interviewed me, that moment in 2007 when my doctor sat me down and said, "You've done your best. You've followed the diet recommendations, you've exercised, and you haven't been able to improve. You gained weight, and your triglycerides are still sky high. You must go on a statin." To which I was actually amenable at the time. I didn't know what statins were. But I do remember that moment when I said, well, I've got a PhD in biology. The least I can do is read about what is a triglyceride and what I should do about it. And I remember that moment in my office when I read a few papers on the physiology of triglycerides, and it just struck me. I said, damn. It's the bread and the potatoes and the sugar I've been eating. I've been so happy eating bread without butter. And so it's the bread that's driving up my triglycerides. So at that time then, I was struck by this epiphany that I'd been given the wrong information. A few papers led to a few thousand papers. And that's what led me to here to you today. Talk both about a little bit about diet, because you've heard plenty from Zoe already, but also about cholesterol. So as a result of what I've learned now, this is now about 10 years in which I've been sharing this information, what I've realized is everything you see up here is bogus, absolutely bogus. Or as my European UK friends, it's just rubbish. Okay? And so that's part of what you've already heard. This is just not right.